Well, how are we getting on? Today's question comes from Tony. Any weight training regime for weight loss, or perhaps bulk loss, a better way to frame it? Lovely question. Bulk loss rather than weight loss. Now, when I first read this, my brain went, a can of worms opened up. I think I must have been reading other stuff on this subject around about the same time. It's a good question, but it's also the wrong question. I love the way he tries to reframe it. Weight loss. What is weight? Weight is everything. Yeah. My bones have weight. My digestive system has weight. My blood has weight. Whether I've been to the toilet this morning or not will determine how much weight I have. What people normally talk about when they talk about weight loss is they want fat loss. But the word fat has become a dirty word. We're not allowed to say it anymore. But it's fat loss. And that's where Tony comes in and says perhaps bulk loss is a better way to frame it. So what we want, less body fat, whilst not losing muscle strength, endurance, mobility. Yeah. So what I actually said to Tony was fat loss is about calorie deficit. So adjusting the diet is what's needed. Training, exercise, fitness training, I don't think is a good medium for fat loss. Now, that's kind of what the point of this whole video is going to be about. Excuse me. Oh, that's good. That is good. I'm only just back on coffee. I had my first coffee the day before yesterday. First coffee in 6 weeks. 6 weeks. I'll talk about that in a minute. I threw some of it out on the Instagram, the Facebook. I don't know whether you saw that. But anyway, so as a coach, when I first got into coaching people, fitness training stuff, I kind of transitioned out of teaching martial arts into teaching fitness around 2005, 6, thereabouts, and then full-time a bit later on. But never have I offered fat loss as part of what I offer. I just didn't think it was, one, part of my expertise, because I'm not really interested, and two, I don't think an exercise specialist is the person to talk to. Now, have people I have trained lost body fat? Absolutely. Of course they have. The single most dramatic change I ever saw was a lad called Matty. And Matty had just changed job. He used to come into my lunchtime sessions in Dublin. The idea with the lunchtime sessions is it's short, sharp, it's efficient. Get in, get it done, get out. The goal is to have people on the floor about 30-ish minutes. Some guys will stretch it out. We keep it as flexible as possible for their lunchtime. So if you're in the Dublin 2 region, do drop in. They're still running. Seb's doing a great job there. But Matty had just changed company, and he was on a real tight lunch break. He didn't quite have the freedom that he had previously. So he'd figured out how long it took him to get to and from, and he worked out he had precisely 30 minutes. 30 minutes. Can you do a lot in 30 minutes? So we gave him 3 workouts. They consisted of 10 minutes warming up. Excuse me, I'm going to sneeze. There we go. 10 minutes warming up. 15 minutes of lifting, strength training, in the shower, out the door. In 3 months, he became unrecognizable. And what happened was, for whatever reason, I had to get someone out of the change room, and I went in the change room. He was just out the shower, towel wrapped around him, and you wouldn't have recognized him. The guy was chiseled. He had a six-pack developing. He had shoulders. He looked amazing. Trained 3 times a week. Yeah. Now he worked hard. Total weekly volume of lifting added up to 45 minutes. He would do that in one session previously. But what was different? Different was his level of commitment, the intensity with which he trained. And he tracked. He tracked his reps, he knew his weight. We were using escalating density, which I think for a short time zone, escalating density training, Charles Staley's brainchild, is one of the best. One of the best ways to train. I have a number of people on it. I've used escalating density, I think, since I first heard about it. However many years ago that was. Such a good method. So we had one density session, lasted 15 minutes. He did 2 lifts, superset, back and forth. He tracked how many total reps he got. Each week he looked to increase the rep count until he boosted that count by whatever, 20%. And then it increased the load, reduced the rep count, start again, building the volume. 3 days a week, that's what he did. He cut out midweek alcohol. He used to have a couple of tins of beer here and there during the week. In that, he became more conscious of his food choices. And that was it. I gave him no nutritional advice. He decided to adjust his food intake. He decided to reduce his alcohol intake. And he got stronger. He put on muscle mass. And he lost a stack of fat. It was incredible. Why he lost fat was the reduction in calorie intake. Yeah, you could say it's the additional output from training, but he's doing 45 minutes a week. It's not a huge amount of volume. But it's what he'd taken off, the excess calories he'd taken off. And that's the key. So you can go online. There's a dozen sites, bodybuilding.com and this and that and the other. Just bodybuilding.com sprung to mind there recently. I've used other ones. And you can put in your height and your weight and your activity level and blah, 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 blah. And it will give you an estimate of how many calories you need. It's an estimate. But it's a guideline. And if you want to lose a bit of body fat, if you want to get, well, they totally say, shift a bit of bulk, you just need to make sure you're in a deficit, slightly below that calorie count. The mistake a lot of people make is they go too low. You go too low, you end up hungry, you end up tired, you end up grumpy, and you rebel against it. And very often people shoot themselves in the foot. It becomes difficult to maintain. You still need enough fuel in the body to keep the brain functioning, to keep the muscles functioning, so you can do your work, so you can do your activities, so you can get a good training session. You need to fuel that. If you're not fueling it, you're kind of on the road to Nowheresville. Now, it's a small calorie deficit. Now, but fat loss. If you want to talk nutrition, you want to talk about calories, figuring out your needs, your wants, your your needs, how many calories you need, how to structure meals and all the rest of it. I'm not the guy. However, down in Dublin, at Wild Geese Fitness Training, Seb. Seb is the guy. Not only is he a great coach, he's also a nutrition coach. Talk to him. Ask him questions. Go to Wild Geese Fitness Running, wgfit.com. Message him. Yeah. Seb's the guy. In my head, fat loss is diet. It's not exercise. Exercise is about performance. Exercise is about improving strength, mobility, endurance. It's about improving performance potential. It's not about losing anything. It's not about losing body fat. It's building. What does a peak performing athlete look like? Have you seen Tyson Fury? There you go. Possibly the best heavyweight, well, results speak themselves. He is the best heavyweight boxer of the moment. And look at him. He just looks like a dude you'd see on the street. The world's strongest man has just been on. Tom Stallman, another legend. Tom and Luke, yeah, it was Tom. Tom, the Albatross, absolute legend. These guys aren't ripped. There's a picture, and I've shared it numerous times, of I've just had a complete brain fart. Emelianenko. Fedor Emelianenko. And I'm probably butchering that name. I'm not really concentrating too hard on that. A picture of Fedor in the gym. And I've got to say, he looks a bit fluffy. One of the scariest combat sports athletes there's ever been. And he's not a chiseled Adonis. Peak performance does not look like what you see on the bodybuilding stage, what you see on the covers of the fitness magazines. Peak performance is not Brad Pitt in Fight Club or Chris Hemsworth in any Chris Hemsworth movie. That is diet. That's your food intake as well as training. So yeah, here's the thing. This is kind of the point. I'm kind of waffling around. I can't remember who it was. It's a high-profile figure in personal training. I can't remember who it is now. Now, personal training, not necessarily the performance world where I like to live, but personal training, general fitness training. And he said it more than once that the fitness industry is failing because the general population is, on average, becoming fatter. We are failing because the general population is getting fatter. That is bullshit. Bullshit. We are not failing because the general population is getting fatter. We are servicing the people that come and utilize our services. If those people are getting fatter, well then yes, we're failing. If those people are developing strength, mobility, endurance, if their body shape is changing, if their body composition is changing, how are we failing? Fitness has never been as popular as it is right now. There is a gym on every street corner. Back in 2007, as I think that's when we took over the facility now known as Wild Geese Fitness, Wild Geese Martial Arts and Fitness. When that place opened, I think it was 2004 or 5, it was originally opened by the Martial Arts Academy guys. There was the council-run leisure centre. There was another sort of public gym, and I think there was a physiotherapist in a half-mile radius. Now, 2020, well, it's 2024 now, but in the last sort of, I'd say 8 years, in that same half-mile radius, there are 2 or 3 physio clinics. Those 2 other gyms are still there, but there are independent fitness studios, probably about half a dozen of them in that same space, a half-mile radius. Here in Dungannon, there's a little town in Dungannon. I took a little walk around when we first moved up here just to have a look, and same sort of thing. You've got little gyms in people's garages, tiny little shops that have been converted into little gyms. You know, fitness has never been as accessible, it's never been as popular, and yet the public, on average, is getting fatter. It's got nothing to do with the fitness industry. We've never been as accessible. Online training, what I currently do more than anything. Online training is out there. Never been as accessible. So, are we failing as an industry? No. No. I see people who are fit, who are moving pretty damn well, muscled, all the time now, more than I ever did. Yeah, people might have been skinnier at one point, but now people are muscled. They look strong, they look capable, and it's beautiful to see. So let's just have a read here. Right. Don't need to really talk about too much of that. So, nutrition then, as far as I'm concerned, nutrition, it's simple. Dan John says it best, eat like an adult. Dan John says a lot of things better than everybody else, but eat like an adult. If you're in the canteen at work and there's a choice of a Mars bar or an apple, you know what you should pick. You're an adult. If there's a choice of buying a pre-prepared ready meal or half a dozen eggs, you're an adult. You will choose the eggs. You make good choices. Meat and veg, meat and 2 veg. Like your mum always used to say, your dad always used to say, meat and 2 veg. Eat your vegetables, eat your meats, and then top it up with your carbohydrates. If you've got a high training load, yeah, you might need more carbohydrates. Fair enough. When you're training hard, eat more. When you're not training so much, eat less. If you need an acute, and I mean an acute drop in weight, then you may go onto a crash type of diet. Where crash diets fail for most people is there's no plan outside of this period of diet. So they would go on a 12-week crash diet or an 8-week crash diet, whatever time period. What happens is you should have an on-ramp into the diet and then an off-ramp back into a sustainable lifestyle. Where I see this a lot are our combat sport guys. And 8, 10, 12 weeks out from an event, they've got a fight date, they've got a competition date whereby they must be a certain weight. Yeah, their training gets a little bit more intense. But more importantly, they start cleaning up the diet. And then by the time the fight weight comes down, yeah, they might have a few pounds to lose at the very, very end, but they're down and they're lean and ripped and focused. And the look in the eye, they're ready to go. Once that's over, they go back into their normal diet. Yeah, there's boxers out there that feast. We all remember Ricky Hatton, you know, a month after his fight, he'd be walking around with his chubby cheeks and his belly. That's not ideal. But you've got a maintenance, your normal, sustainable eating plan, and then you've got your short-lived cutting period, your crash period. I've worked, especially when I was on the doors, I used to work with a lot of bodybuilders, and when they were cutting, they were the most miserable people on the planet. Chicken and broccoli and rice 5 times a day. Bored out your bin. Works. It works. It's discipline. So a crash diet is okay if, one, you're using it to go from a maintenance into a severe deficit for a short period, and you're going to come back to maintenance afterwards. Where it doesn't work is if you're disorganized and ill-disciplined with your eating, and you're either making really bad food choices, really poor food quality choices, or you're just eating too much, basically. If you crash diet, you're probably going to really struggle anyway. But what do you do at the end of that crash diet, that short, acute diet period? What do you do at the end of it? What's your plan afterwards? What is your new maintenance going to look like when you come out the other side of it? Mentioned earlier on, this coffee, I've not had coffee in 6 weeks. I took a break, and I do this quite a lot. At least once a year, I tend to remove coffee or caffeine. This time it's a complete caffeine break, or I'll do it with something else. And the point is, probably overdoing it because coffee's lovely. So you just stop and you take a breather. I took a month off. It ended up being 6 weeks for reasons. Now, in the last few days, I have far fewer cravings for caffeine. It wasn't an addiction, but I broke that habit. This is probably the only coffee I'll have today. We'll see. No plans. But that's kind of the point. This is now my new baseline. That acute period of abstinence has given me a new baseline. And that's what we're looking at. If you want to change your body type and change your body fat, lose the bulk and keep it off, you've got this normal, which is keeping you at this body shape, this body composition. You need to get to this normal. All right? How do you cross that gap? Do you go through a crash, an acute diet, or do you just gradually bring that down? Both work. But if you don't have a plan, if you don't have a long-term plan, if you don't know what you're doing and why you're doing it, that's where you're probably going to fail. Now, again, I'll push you to talk to Seb. Book a consultation with him. He's a good guy. He's not back from Brazil just yet. He'll be back. When's he back? This week? Next week? When's he back? Next week. Just before I come down to Dublin, actually, for a visit. But yeah, keep training. Do your lifts 3 days a week in the gym. What do they call it? 3x52. 3 days a week, every week, 52 weeks a year. More like 48 weeks a year, really. And then, yeah, be sensible. Eat like an adult. Meat and 2 veg. It's not difficult. It's simple. And the more you do it, the easier it becomes. So, hopefully this is the one and only time I talk about nutrition, because it's really not my subject. If you want more on that, we'll maybe get Seb, maybe even interview Seb, maybe get him to talk to us. But if you've got questions on fitness, on strength, mobility, endurance, if you've got questions on managing injuries, and we're not going to do rehab on this, but we can talk about management, give me a shout. Give me a shout. Right, you know what to do. This is YouTube, so what do? You subscribe and you hit that little bell for notifications and all that. You know YouTube works. There's a comment section below. Drop me a line. Go on to davehedges.net. Drop me a line through there. Go on to Wild Geese Fitness Training website. Drop me or Seb a line through there. And I'll talk to you soon. Have a good one.